Listen carefully. This message is not arriving by coincidence, and it is not meant to be consumed casually. There is a reason you are hearing this now, and there is a reason it carries urgency. When I say only 5 minutes left, I am not speaking of a clock you can see, but of a moment of awareness that does not remain open forever. Some truths pass by quietly, and if they are ignored, they do not vanish, but they retreat, waiting for another season. I have come so you do not miss what is trying to step into your understanding right now. You have felt a strange restlessness lately, a sense that something is unfinished, that someone's thoughts keep brushing against yours without explanation. You dismissed it as imagination, as coincidence, as loneliness perhaps. But there are thoughts that are not born in isolation. There are intentions forming around you that you did not initiate, emotions growing in silence while you focused on surviving your own days. What you sense is not confusion, it is proximity. Someone has been thinking of you with seriousness, not curiosity, with intention, not fantasy. Their thoughts have not been fleeting, they have been weighed, reconsidered, restrained. This is not about attraction alone. This is about a future being imagined quietly, responsibly, even cautiously. You were not meant to know this yet through human words, but you are meant to feel the shift before it becomes visible. You wonder why this is being revealed now, and not earlier. It is because timing matters more than desire. There are moments when knowing too soon creates fear, pressure, or distortion. There are moments when knowing too late creates regret. This moment sits between those two dangers. It is not meant to force you into action. It is meant to awaken discernment. Do not let the urgency frighten you. Urgency does not always mean danger. It sometimes means alignment. It means multiple paths are nearing an intersection. It means hearts are approaching honesty. It means silence is close to ending. You are not being told to run, to decide, or to commit. You are being told to notice. There is someone in your life, or just outside of it, who has considered you as more than a passing presence. They have asked themselves serious questions. They have imagined responsibility, permanence, covenant. And they have hesitated, not because they are unsure of their feelings, but because they respect the weight of what marriage truly is. This hesitation has kept them quiet longer than you realize. You may think, why would I not know this? Because not all intentions announce themselves. Some are guarded because they are fragile in their early formation. Some are hidden because the person carrying them fears rejection or disruption or the loss of what already exists between you. Silence does not always mean absence of feeling. Often it means depth without courage. Yet, this message is not here to promise outcomes. It is here to shift perception, to help you understand that what has felt like emotional static may actually be unspoken intention, that what felt like unfinished energy may be a heart standing at the edge of confession. You are not being told to assume, accuse, or confront. You are being asked to stay present and attentive. If you dismiss this entirely, nothing is destroyed, but momentum slows, awareness closes, discernment dulls. That is why this moment matters, not because love disappears, but because clarity requires participation. Recognition is the first door, and recognition does not demand belief, it only asks for openness. Remain calm. Remain grounded. This is not a warning meant to control you. It is an announcement meant to steady you. Something is nearing expression. Someone is nearing honesty. And you were meant to be aware before the words arrive. Stay with this message. What unfolds next is not about fear. It is about understanding. The urgency you feel is not meant to rush your heart into conclusions, nor to push you into fear-driven decisions. When I speak of 5 minutes, understand this as a narrowing of attention, not a countdown meant to trap you. There are moments when awareness sharpens briefly, when insight becomes available before the noise of daily life dulls it again. This is one of those moments. It is an invitation to be present, not a threat of loss. You have been moving through your days with a divided awareness, one part focused on what is visible and required, another part quietly sensing that something is forming beneath the surface. That second awareness is often the first to be silenced when life becomes busy or overwhelming. Urgency exists now because clarity is near, and clarity needs space. If you scroll past, dismiss, or rush away internally, the signal becomes harder to hear, not because it disappears, but because distraction grows louder. Divine timing does not operate in panic, but it does recognize windows. There are brief seasons when hearts are closer to honesty, when courage is gathering strength, when inner questions are nearing answers. This is such a season. The person who has been holding these intentions has reached a threshold of consideration. They are weighing permanence, responsibility, and the consequences of speaking. When one heart reaches that point, the other is often stirred gently, not to alarm, but to prepare. You may wonder why awareness must come before confession. It is because unprepared hearts often misinterpret sincerity. Without readiness, seriousness can feel overwhelming instead of honoring. Awareness allows you to receive information without shock, to recognize intention without panic, to listen without defensive reflex. This moment exists to soften the ground, not to demand a response. Urgency also exists because fear has been loud in your past. Fear of disappointment, fear of misreading signals, fear of hoping again and feeling foolish. If clarity waits too long, fear resumes control. But when awareness comes gently before fear reasserts itself, discernment has a chance to lead instead. This is not pressure, it is protection. You are not being asked to identify someone immediately. You are not being asked to decode signs obsessively or interrogate your memories. You are being asked to notice your internal responses over the coming moments. Pay attention to what feels familiar, to what evokes calm rather than anxiety, to what carries steadiness instead of urgency. True intention carries weight, not chaos. The narrowing of time also refers to inner honesty. You cannot recognize sincerity in another if you are disconnected from your own readiness. Ask yourself, not with judgment but with gentleness, what would you feel if someone spoke seriously about a future with you? Resistance, fear, peace, curiosity. The answer does not determine the outcome, but it reveals where you are. Awareness begins within before it recognizes without. This is why I speak now. Not because something will vanish if you do not act, but because understanding grows more difficult when the moment passes unacknowledged. Hearts retreat. Courage hesitates. Silence lengthens. Awareness shortens that distance. Remain calm. Do not tense your expectations. Do not force meaning onto every interaction. Simply allow yourself to stay attentive without obsession. The coming clarity does not require you to chase it. It will move toward you naturally if you remain receptive. This urgency is not about fear. It is about alignment. Alignment happens when two timelines draw close enough to touch, and that closeness has already begun. There is something you need to understand clearly before fear or imagination distorts it. What I am revealing to you is not a fantasy born from loneliness, nor a projection created by desire. It is an intention that has been forming quietly, deliberately, and with restraint. Someone has been carrying thoughts of union toward you, not impulsively, but with gravity. This is not a passing interest. It is not admiration that fades. It is consideration, the kind that asks, could this be forever? This person did not arrive at these thoughts suddenly. They did not wake up one day overwhelmed by emotion and decide to build dreams around you. These thoughts grew over time, through observation, respect, and internal struggle. They noticed how you move through the world, how you respond under pressure, how you care, how you endure, how you remain yourself even when circumstances shift. What drew them was not perfection, but steadiness, not performance, but substance. They have replayed conversations in their mind, even small ones. Moments you forgot lingered with them, a tone in your voice, a choice you made, a boundary you kept. These details accumulated quietly, shaping a picture not of fantasy, but of compatibility. Marriage-level intention does not come from intensity alone. It comes from recognition, and recognition has already happened. You may wonder why you have not felt this clearly until now. It is because intention does not always transmit as emotion. Often it moves as tension, as unfinished energy, as a subtle pull without explanation. You sensed something, but could not define it, because the person carrying it had not yet allowed it to surface. Intention kept unspoken still creates presence. Silence does not cancel impact. This person has wrestled internally with responsibility. They have asked themselves difficult questions. Am I ready? Can I protect what matters? Will I risk losing what exists by speaking what I feel? Marriage is not a light word to them. That is why they have been careful. That is why they have delayed. Not because they are unsure of you, but because they are aware of the weight of commitment. Understand this clearly. Hesitation does not mean doubt. In serious hearts, hesitation often means reverence. They did not want to approach you with uncertainty, confusion, or half-formed promises. They wanted clarity before courage. And clarity takes time when someone understands the cost of choosing wrongly. You may be tempted to immediately search your memory, to name faces, to assign this intention to someone you know. Do not rush. Recognition does not come through forcing logic, it comes through resonance. When the truth surfaces, something within you will settle rather than race. There will be familiarity without fantasy, calm without pressure. That is how sincerity reveals itself. This message is not telling you that marriage is guaranteed. It is telling you that seriousness exists. And seriousness changes how you perceive interactions. It sharpens discernment. It allows you to notice consistency instead of charm, patience instead of pursuit, presence instead of performance. Someone has been choosing silence not to manipulate you, but to protect the possibility of something sacred. That silence is nearing its end, because courage grows heavy when carried too long alone. What has been contained is approaching expression, not explosively, not dramatically, but honestly. Remain grounded. Do not let excitement run ahead of wisdom. Do not let fear retreat from truth. Simply hold this awareness gently. What you are being shown now is not a command. It is context. And context prepares the heart to receive what words alone cannot explain. The intention is real. The weight is real. And you were meant to know this before the silence breaks. The reason this person has not spoken yet is not because they lack feeling, and not because they are playing games with your emotions. It is because timing has felt heavier to them than desire. They have been standing at the edge of a decision that could alter both of your lives, and they did not want to step forward carelessly. Some people rush into words because they fear losing the moment. Others delay because they fear dishonoring it. This person belongs to the second kind. They have been watching circumstances closely, yours and theirs. Responsibilities, stability, emotional readiness. They ask themselves whether they could offer consistency instead of promises, presence instead of passion alone. They did not want to awaken hope in you if they could not protect it. That restraint has kept them silent longer than their feelings would have preferred. There have also been external pressures, voices that cautioned them to wait, situations that made speaking feel risky, past experiences that taught them how painful it can be to confess something sacred too early or to the wrong heart. They have known disappointment. They have known rejection. And those memories did not make them less sincere, they made them more careful. At times, they came close to speaking. You may have felt it in subtle shifts, changes in tone, moments of hesitation, glances held a second longer than necessary, words almost spoken, and then withdrawn. Those moments were not accidents. They were crossroads where courage and fear met quietly. Silence won then, but it has not won permanently. Another reason for delay has been respect for your boundaries. They did not want to intrude into your life prematurely or create confusion if they sensed you were not ready. They paid attention to your emotional posture, your availability, your signals of openness or distance. This was not passivity, it was consideration. They chose to wait rather than risk misalignment. There is also a spiritual resistance that often accompanies serious unions. When commitment level in tension forms, it is not uncommon for doubt to increase, distractions to arise, or circumstances to complicate timing. Not everything that delays is internal. Some delays exist because something meaningful is being guarded until it can be approached with clarity instead of chaos. You may wonder why you were not informed sooner, why awareness comes now rather than at the beginning. It is because knowing too early could have shifted your behavior unnaturally. You might have read into every interaction, altered your responses, or felt pressure to perform rather than simply be yourself. Silence protected authenticity on both sides. This delay has not been wasted time. It has been a season of weighing, refining, and preparing. What is forming is not impulsive emotion. It is intention that has survived questioning. And intention that survives questioning tends to speak with honesty rather than haste. Do not interpret the delay as rejection. Do not interpret caution as lack of desire. What has been held back was held back with care. And care is often invisible until it finally speaks. The silence is not permanent. It is reaching its limit because what is genuine cannot remain hidden indefinitely. But when it does emerge, it will come with steadiness, not confusion, with seriousness, not pressure, with truth, not spectacle. Remain calm. You are not behind. You are not missing something. You are standing at the edge of a moment that required patience on both sides. And patience, when it gives way to honesty, carries weight that haste never could. What you may not fully see yet is the depth of what this person feels. And depth is the reason everything has unfolded slowly. Their emotions are not loud, impulsive, or fleeting. They are measured, thoughtful, and anchored in respect. They did not allow themselves to romanticize you without understanding you. They paid attention to who you are when no one is watching, not just how you appear when things are easy. That is why their feelings grew quietly instead of explosively. This person did not fall into admiration, they arrived at conviction. Conviction is heavier. It asks harder questions. It demands honesty about readiness, responsibility, and sacrifice. They have imagined not just being with you, but standing beside you in difficulty. They considered whether they could remain steady when life becomes demanding, whether they could honor you when emotions fluctuate, whether they could choose commitment even when circumstances are not ideal. These are not thoughts of infatuation. These are thoughts of permanence. There has been restraint in how they allowed themselves to feel. They did not indulge fantasy freely. When their thoughts moved too far ahead, they pulled themselves back. When emotion rose quickly, they slowed it down. They wanted their heart to be guided by wisdom, not impulse. That restraint may have made them appear distant at times or emotionally guarded, but it was never indifference. It was discipline. They have respected you more than you realize. Respect is why they did not test your emotions casually. Respect is why they did not speak lightly or flirt with promises they could not yet stand behind. Respect is why they chose silence over confusion. They understood that words create weight, and once spoken, they cannot be taken back without consequence. They did not want to place that weight on you until they were certain they could carry it themselves. This person has felt longing, but not desperation. They have felt attraction, but not recklessness. They have felt hope, but not entitlement. Their emotions have been steady rather than consuming, intentional rather than overwhelming. That steadiness is easy to overlook in a world that associates intensity with sincerity. But true commitment often arrives quietly because it is built to last, not to impress. You may have misread their calm as lack of interest. You may have assumed that if someone truly wanted you, they would rush toward you without hesitation. But rushing is not always love. It is often fear of loss. What you are sensing here is different. It is patience rooted in seriousness. It is waiting rooted in respect. It is desire that refuses to become selfish. There were moments when they wanted to move closer emotionally, but chose to step back instead, so they would not cross boundaries prematurely. Moments when they wanted to reveal more, but held back because they wanted the timing to be clean, honest, and fair to you. That self-restraint has cost them internally, but they chose it anyway. This is why the connection, when acknowledged, will not feel chaotic. It will feel grounded. You will not feel rushed to decide. You will not feel pressured to respond immediately. You will feel considered, seen, approached with care rather than urgency. That is the mark of seriousness. Do not confuse quiet depth with emotional absence. Some hearts love loudly, others love steadily. And steady love is the kind that remains when circumstances change, when excitement fades, when life becomes demanding. That is the kind of heart that has been forming intention toward you. What you are being shown now is not romance, it is responsibility mixed with affection. And that combination is rare. It does not shout. It waits until the moment is right to speak with clarity. Remain attentive, but do not overanalyze. The depth you are sensing will reveal itself naturally through consistency, respect, and timing. What is real does not need to convince you. It will simply feel solid when it finally steps forward. There is something you must guard against in this moment, not because danger is near, but because distraction is subtle. Distraction does not arrive loudly. It comes disguised as normalcy, as scrolling, as dismissing a thought too quickly, as telling yourself this awareness can wait. But when something meaningful approaches expression, distraction often increases, not to stop it forever, but to delay recognition just long enough for doubt to return. You are not being warned because you are weak. You are being warned because this moment is sensitive. Awareness sharpens briefly, then softens again if it is ignored. When you tell yourself, I'll think about this later, later often becomes never, not because truth disappears, but because attention moves on. And what requires attentiveness cannot unfold fully in indifference. Distraction pulls you outward when you are meant to listen inward. It keeps you busy enough to avoid reflection, entertained enough to avoid stillness. But stillness is where discernment speaks. If you fill every quiet moment, you will miss the subtle confirmations that are trying to surface. This is not about obsession, it is about presence. There is also another form of distraction, self-doubt disguised as logic. Thoughts like, this is probably nothing, I'm reading too much into this, or I shouldn't think like this. These thoughts feel responsible, even mature, but when they shut down awareness entirely, they do not protect you, they numb you. Discernment requires openness, not dismissal. I'm not asking you to fixate on every interaction or search desperately for meaning. That would create confusion, not clarity. I am asking you to stay observant without forcing interpretation, to notice patterns without assigning conclusions prematurely, to remain receptive without becoming anxious. Distraction thrives on extremes, either complete denial or obsessive analysis. Both pull you away from balance. Balance is where truth becomes recognizable. Stay balanced. Stay grounded. Let information come to you naturally instead of chasing it or rejecting it. There may be small signs, repeated thoughts, unexpected memories, moments of recognition that surface gently. Distraction will try to brush these aside as coincidence, but coincidence loses its power when it repeats. Pay attention to what persists without effort, what returns calmly, what feels steady rather than urgent. Also be aware of emotional noise from others. Opinions, stories, comparisons, and outside voices can blur discernment quickly. Not every perspective is meant to guide you in this moment. Some voices will push you to rush. Others will push you to retreat. Neither extreme is aligned. Alignment keeps you steady. You do not need to announce anything. You do not need to confront anyone. You do not need to act prematurely. You only need to remain inwardly awake. Awareness now will save confusion later. Recognition now will prevent misinterpretation later. Distraction is most effective when it convinces you that nothing matters yet. But something does matter, your readiness to recognize sincerity when it approaches. If you are numb, sincerity feels unfamiliar. If you are present, sincerity feels clear. This is not about missing your chance. It is about missing clarity, and clarity makes everything else easier. Stay present. Stay attentive. Not strained, attentive. What is forming does not require panic. It requires perception. Do not let the moment dissolve into noise. Let it settle into understanding. There are signs you have already encountered, even if you did not recognize them at the time. They did not arrive as dramatic declarations or unmistakable confessions. They came quietly, woven into ordinary moments, small repetitions, familiar presences, unfinished conversations that lingered longer than they should have. These signs were not meant to alarm you. They were meant to prepare you. You may recall encountering the same person at unexpected intervals, as if paths kept crossing without effort. Not forced, not planned, just repeated enough to feel noticeable, yet subtle enough to dismiss. Familiarity grew without intensity, comfort without assumption. That pattern was not accidental. When intention forms quietly, it often reveals itself through consistency rather than pursuit. There may be a name that has surfaced in your thoughts more than once without reason. a face that appears when you are not actively thinking about relationships, a memory that returns gently, not emotionally charged, but steady. These are not signs meant to create fantasy. They are signals of recognition forming beneath awareness. You may also remember moments of unfinished dialogue, conversations that felt like they ended too soon, questions that were almost asked, words that hovered but never landed. Those pauses carried more meaning than you realized. Silence can sometimes communicate more than speech, especially when both sides sense something unspoken but unready. There were moments when you felt seen without being examined, understood without being questioned, safe without explanation. That feeling did not come from attraction alone, it came from resonance. Resonance does not demand attention. It simply exists and waits. You might have noticed subtle changes in their behavior, greater care in how they spoke to you, increased attentiveness without intrusion, respect without distance. These were not attempts to impress. They were adjustments made by someone aware of boundaries and determined not to cross them prematurely. At times, you may have felt an odd neutrality around them, not excitement, not anxiety, but calm. That calm may have confused you. You may have thought real connection should feel more intense, but calm is often the marker of safety, not absence. When something aligns deeply, it does not always trigger adrenaline, it triggers steadiness. There were also moments when timing seemed off, when closeness appeared just as circumstances shifted, when connection brushed against responsibility and stepped back. That pattern was not avoidance, it was restraint. Restraint often hides sincerity because it refuses to take shortcuts. You may have dismissed these signs because they did not fit the narrative you expected. You may have told yourself you were imagining things, or that if something real existed, it would be obvious by now. But obviousness is not always how seriousness reveals itself. Sometimes seriousness waits until it can speak without confusion. Do not go searching your memory frantically now. Recognition does not come through force. It comes through settling. When the truth aligns with you, you will feel a quiet confirmation, not excitement that races, but understanding that steadies. Familiarity without fantasy. Awareness without pressure. These signs were not meant to convince you of an outcome. They were meant to soften you toward recognition, to help you realize that what is approaching did not come from nowhere. It has been forming in plain sight, just below the surface of attention. Remain calm as you reflect. Let clarity surface naturally. What is genuine does not need to be chased. It becomes clear when the moment arrives. There has been confirmation at a deeper level than thought, something your heart noticed before your mind could explain it. This is how spiritual recognition often works. It does not announce itself with logic or proof. It settles quietly, creating a sense of familiarity that feels unearned, as if something already knows you. When this person was near, your body relaxed in ways you didn't consciously register. Your breathing slowed. Your guard softened. That response was not coincidence. You may have felt it as an unexpected calm, even when circumstances around you were uncertain. While your mind remained cautious, something within you felt steady, as though nothing needed to be defended. This is not the excitement of novelty, it is the peace of alignment. Alignment does not demand attention. It simply feels right without needing explanation. There were moments when you felt unusually clear around this person. Less overthinking, less self-correction, less effort to manage how you were perceived. You were able to be present rather than perform. That freedom is rare, and it does not come from chemistry alone. It comes from safety sensed at a level deeper than emotion. You may have dismissed this calm because it did not match what you were taught to expect. You were told that connection should be intense, dramatic, unmistakable. But intensity is not the same as truth. Intensity can come from anxiety as easily as from desire. Spiritual confirmation, however, arrives with quiet clarity. It does not pull you forward, it steadies you where you stand. There were also moments when your intuition stirred without explanation, a sense to pause before reacting, a feeling to listen more closely, a nudge to be patient rather than curious. These inner signals were not random. They were alignment cues, subtle guidance helping you remain receptive without rushing ahead of timing. You might remember sensing a boundary that did not feel restrictive but protective, as if something was saying, "Not yet," without shutting the door. That kind of restraint does not come from confusion. It comes from order, from something being held until the right moment, not withheld indefinitely. Your heart has already registered sincerity, even if your mind argued with it. That is why you felt neither compelled to pursue nor inclined to withdraw completely. You remained open without pressure, present without attachment. That balance is not accidental. It is confirmation that something is unfolding at the right pace. Do not underestimate what your spirit has already recognized. You are more perceptive than you give yourself credit for. You learn to doubt your intuition because past disappointment taught you to second-guess yourself. But discernment did not leave you, it matured. It became quieter, more patient, more accurate. Spiritual confirmation does not shout, "This is it." It whispers, "Pay attention." It invites observation rather than assumption. It asks you to remain present rather than reactive. And that is exactly what you have been doing, even without realizing it. As clarity continues to form, you will notice how this sense of peace remains consistent. It does not spike and crash. It does not depend on validation. It does not create urgency. It holds steady. That steadiness is your confirmation, not of an outcome, but of alignment. Trust what settles, not what excites. Trust what remains calm, not what demands immediacy. Your heart has already been responding correctly. Now your understanding is simply catching up to what your spirit recognized first. There is something standing in the way of this union, not because it is meant to stop it, but because it has not yet finished teaching what it was meant to teach. Every serious connection encounters resistance, and this resistance is not random. It exists at the intersection of fear, timing, and unfinished healing. Understanding it does not weaken the connection, it strengthens discernment. The obstacle is not lack of feeling. It is not confusion about intention. It is not uncertainty about compatibility. The obstacle is pressure created by past pain, either theirs, yours, or both. Someone involved carries a memory of loss, betrayal, or disappointment that reshaped how they approach commitment. That memory taught caution where there once was openness. It taught silence where there once was expression. It taught delay where there once might have been action. This obstacle may also involve circumstances that feel external but are deeply connected to internal readiness. Distance, emotional or physical. Responsibilities that demand focus. A situation that requires stability before expansion. These are not excuses. They are realities that must be navigated carefully when commitment is involved. Serious intention does not ignore complexity. It waits for clarity within it. There may also be a third influence, not a rival in affection, but a competing demand, a family expectation, a previous obligation, a season that requires attention before anything new can be honored fully. This influence has slowed expression, not erased desire. It has created hesitation, not withdrawal. You may have felt this obstacle as a pause, an almost but not yet energy. Moments when things felt close to unfolding, then settled back into waiting. That rhythm is frustrating, but it is not accidental. It signals something unfinished, not something broken. And unfinished does not mean unworthy. The obstacle has also been protective for you. Had things moved forward earlier, you might have entered the situation carrying unhealed expectations, unresolved fear, or a readiness rooted more in longing than clarity. Waiting refined your posture. It taught you to listen instead of rush, to value steadiness over intensity. That growth matters now. Do not interpret the obstacle as opposition. Opposition fights to destroy. This obstacle has functioned to slow, to clarify, to ground. When it loosens, and it will not collapse suddenly. It will recede naturally because what it was guarding will be ready to move forward. There is also an internal obstacle you must acknowledge honestly, fear of disappointment returning. This fear has made you cautious about hope itself. You have learned how to protect your heart by limiting expectation. That strategy kept you safe. But safety is not the same as openness. Discernment now asks you to remain open without becoming reckless. That balance is part of what dissolves the obstacle. You are not being punished by delay. You are being positioned beyond regret. Regret comes from moving before clarity or after avoidance. This season is closing the gap between those two extremes. It is teaching patience without numbness, hope without fantasy, readiness without pressure. The obstacle will not remain once its purpose is complete. When it moves, it will do so quietly, without drama, without conflict, without forcing. The shift will feel natural, as if resistance simply lost relevance. And when that happens, what has been held will be free to speak. Do not push against what is slowing things now. Do not attempt to remove it through control or assumption. Let it finish its work. What is meant to last is worth waiting for until it can arrive whole. This obstacle is not the enemy. It is the final refinement before honesty. It is important that you understand why marriage has entered this message at all. Not to provoke fantasy, not to create pressure, not to rush your heart into imagining vows before conversation. Marriage appears here because the intention being carried is not casual. It is not exploratory. It is not rooted in loneliness or convenience. It is rooted in permanence, and permanence changes how everything else is approached. For this person, marriage is not an abstract dream. It is a responsibility they do not speak of lightly. When they imagine a future with you, they are not imagining romance alone. They are imagining shared weight, shared decisions, shared resilience when life becomes difficult. They are imagining commitment that continues when emotion fluctuates. That level of thinking does not form quickly, and it does not form without seriousness. This is why their actions have felt measured rather than expressive. Casual interest seeks proximity quickly. Serious intention seeks foundation first. They have been asking themselves whether they can offer consistency instead of promises, whether they can protect what they would awaken by speaking, whether they can honor you not just at the beginning, but in the middle and the long stretch beyond. These questions slow a person down, but they also reveal depth. Marriage is mentioned because the intention is covenant-minded, not because an outcome is being forced. Covenant-mindedness means they are not approaching you with uncertainty about direction. They may be uncertain about timing, about circumstances, about how to speak, but not about the weight of what they feel. That distinction matters. You may have associated marriage with pressure in the past. Expectations, timelines, fear of choosing wrongly. This message is not here to reawaken those anxieties. It is here to clarify that the energy you are sensing is not fleeting. It is not ambiguous interest. It is not curiosity dressed up as depth. It is someone weighing whether they are ready to build, not merely to feel. This is also why the delay has existed. Marriage-level intention does not tolerate shortcuts. It resists impulsive declarations. It demands readiness, not perfection, but stability. The person carrying this intention did not want to invite you into something unfinished, uncertain, or fragile. They wanted what they offered to be clean, honest, and sustainable. Do not interpret this as expectation placed on you. You are not being asked to respond with equal certainty right now. You are not being asked to commit internally to a future you have not yet discussed. Awareness does not equal obligation. Awareness simply helps you understand the seriousness of what is forming so you do not misinterpret it as something lighter. Marriage appears here because this connection is not meant to drift indefinitely. It is not meant to remain undefined forever. Whether it unfolds fully or not, it carries a weight that requires clarity. And clarity always begins with truth being acknowledged rather than ignored. If fear rises when you hear the word, pause and breathe. Fear does not mean misalignment, it often means significance. But significance does not require rushing. It requires steadiness. You are allowed to move slowly. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to remain discerning. The mention of marriage is not a demand. It is a lens. It explains why everything has unfolded carefully, quietly, and with restraint. It explains why the energy has felt different from past connections. It explains why silence has carried weight rather than absence. Let this understanding settle without forcing meaning. You are not being told how the story ends. You are being shown the seriousness of the chapter you are approaching. And seriousness, when met with calm awareness, creates space for honesty rather than pressure. Remain grounded. What is forming does not rush, it honors time, and it will speak when the foundation is strong enough to hold the words. Now, you must understand how the name will become known, because it will not arrive through spectacle, mystery tricks, or sudden supernatural displays meant to overwhelm you. It will come through recognition, not revelation, through clarity, not shock. The name will not be forced into your awareness. It will surface naturally when understanding aligns with readiness. You are not meant to guess, search obsessively, or test every person in your life against this message. That would create confusion, not truth. Names revealed through anxiety are almost always wrong. Names recognized through calm awareness are rarely mistaken. When the time is right, one name will feel different, not exciting, not dramatic, but settled, as though it was already there, waiting to be acknowledged. This recognition may come through memory. A moment you overlooked before may suddenly make sense. A conversation you dismissed may replay with new clarity. You may realize that the name you are thinking of did not arrive randomly. It persisted quietly, without effort, without pressure. Persistence without force is one of the clearest signs of sincerity. The name may also come through confirmation rather than novelty. You may notice it repeated in unrelated contexts, spoken by others without prompting, appearing in moments when your mind is not searching. When something is aligned, it does not need to be chased. It appears consistently until it is recognized. Do not expect the name to feel dramatic. Drama excites the nervous system. Truth calms it. When recognition arrives, your body will not tense. Your thoughts will not race. You will feel steady, even if uncertainty remains. That steadiness is more reliable than emotional intensity. You may question yourself at first. That is natural. Discernment often arrives gently and allows room for doubt before settling. Do not rush to announce anything internally. Let recognition mature. Truth becomes clearer with stillness, not speed. Also understand this. Knowing the name does not obligate you to act immediately. Awareness does not equal responsibility. Recognition simply allows you to respond wisely when clarity presents itself outwardly. You are not being asked to confront, confess, or initiate. You are being prepared to understand when communication happens, so you do not misread seriousness as surprise. If the name does not become clear immediately, do not panic. This message is not a test you can fail. Clarity unfolds in sequence. Awareness first, understanding next, expression later. Each step arrives when the previous one is received calmly. Avoid discussing this with people who rush to interpret or dramatize. Outside noise can distort inner clarity quickly. What is genuine does not need commentary, it needs space. Guard your perception until understanding settles. The name will not come through fear, it will not come through urgency, it will not come through pressure. It will come when your inner posture is neutral, attentive, and grounded. That is why calm matters more than curiosity. When recognition happens, you will not feel like you discovered something. You will feel like you finally acknowledged what was already present. That is how truth often works. It does not surprise you, it explains you. Remain present. Remain steady. The name will surface when understanding is strong enough to hold it without distortion. And when it does, it will not confuse you. It will clarify the path ahead. If you remain receptive now, something subtle but important will begin to change inside you before anything changes around you. Receptivity does not mean waiting tensely or watching every interaction for hidden meaning. It means staying emotionally available without forcing conclusions. When receptivity is present, clarity is able to approach without resistance. When it is absent, even truth can feel confusing. You will notice that your thoughts become calmer rather than more crowded. Instead of spiraling into analysis, you will feel a steady awareness begin to replace speculation. Questions will still exist, but they will no longer feel urgent or heavy. That shift is not accidental. It is the first sign that understanding is organizing itself within you. As receptivity continues, confirmation may begin to arrive in quiet ways. Dreams that feel grounded rather than symbolic. Conversations that unexpectedly clarify rather than complicate. Moments of inner certainty that do not demand action, only recognition. These are not signs meant to impress you. They are signals meant to settle you. You may also notice a change in how you perceive the person connected to this message. Not idealized, not diminished, simply clearer. You will see patterns rather than moments, consistency rather than charm, presence rather than pursuit. That clarity is only possible when your heart is not guarded by fear or inflated by fantasy. Receptivity will also soften your reaction to uncertainty. Instead of trying to control outcomes, you will feel more comfortable allowing things to unfold. That comfort does not come from indifference, it comes from trust in discernment. You will trust yourself more. You will trust timing more. You will trust that what is genuine does not require you to chase it or defend it. There may be moments when emotion rises briefly, curiosity, hope, even hesitation. Let those emotions pass through without attaching meaning too quickly. Receptivity allows emotion without surrendering clarity to it. You do not need to suppress feeling, you simply need to avoid letting it lead. If you stay receptive, you will not be startled when communication eventually happens. Whether through words, actions, or decisions, you will recognize the tone immediately. It will not feel intrusive or overwhelming. It will feel aligned with what you already sensed forming quietly. That recognition will spare you confusion and reactionary choices. Receptivity also protects you from disappointment. When you are open but grounded, you do not attach your worth to outcomes. You allow truth to reveal itself fully before you respond. That posture keeps you steady regardless of how the situation unfolds. Do not confuse receptivity with passivity. Passivity disengages. Receptivity listens. It observes. It remains present. It allows information to come without demanding it arrive on your terms. This posture is active in awareness, even if it appears still outwardly. If at any point you feel yourself slipping into anxiety, return to neutrality. Breathe. Remind yourself that clarity does not need to be rushed. What is meant to surface will do so when it can be received cleanly. Anxiety clouds perception, calm sharpens it. Remaining receptive now does not guarantee a specific outcome. It guarantees discernment. And discernment is what protects you from regret, whether the path leads forward or redirects elsewhere. You are being prepared not just for connection, but for wisdom. Stay open. Stay steady. What you allow yourself to receive in understanding now will make everything that follows clearer, gentler, and more honest. If you ignore this moment entirely, nothing catastrophic will happen, but something subtle will be delayed. Not love itself, not destiny erased, but momentum softened. Awareness dims first. Courage hesitates longer. Silence stretches where clarity might have shortened it. This is how delays form, not through rejection, but through missed readiness. When awareness closes, people retreat back into safety. The one who has been carrying intention may tell themselves it is better to wait again, better not to risk misunderstanding, better to stay quiet a little longer. Not because the feeling faded, but because the moment to speak felt uncertain. Windows of courage are not infinite. They return, but not always quickly. You may find that confusion increases instead of resolves. Questions linger without answers. Interactions feel ambiguous again. Not wrong, just unfinished. And unfinished things drain more energy over time than clear ones do. This is why discernment matters now. Clarity simplifies. Delay complicates. Ignoring does not protect you from disappointment, it postpones understanding. It leaves space for imagination to fill gaps truth would have closed. Over time, that can create distance where alignment once existed quietly. Not permanently, but unnecessarily. You may also notice that your own readiness recedes. When moments of awareness are dismissed repeatedly, the heart learns to close reflexively. Not out of wisdom, but out of habit. Openness becomes harder. Neutrality turns into numbness. That numbness feels safe, but it also makes recognition harder when sincerity approaches again. This is not punishment. It is consequence of attention. What you give attention to grows clearer. What you withhold attention from grows vague. The situation does not vanish, but it becomes harder to read. You are not being threatened with loss. You are being invited into timeliness. There is a difference. Love that is meant to last does not disappear when ignored, but it does wait until both sides are able to meet it consciously. Waiting again is not wrong. It is simply heavier the longer it continues without clarity. If you feel resistance rising as you read this, do not fight it. Resistance often appears when something matters. Let that awareness sit without judgment. You are not required to act, you are only asked not to dismiss. Delay does not mean failure, but understanding now makes everything easier later. That is the truth being offered to you. Stay present a little longer. Clarity is closer than you think. Imagination runs fast. It demands instant clarity, vivid images, emotional spikes. What you are experiencing is the opposite. It has unfolded slowly, calmly, with restraint. That alone tells you something important. What is imagined rushes ahead of reality. What is real waits for the right conditions to speak. You may be afraid of believing and then feeling foolish later. Afraid of opening yourself emotionally and realizing you misread everything. That fear is rooted in self-protection, not lack of discernment. But discernment does not grow through dismissal, it grows through calm observation over time. And time has already been part of this unfolding. Notice what this message has not done. It has not told you to act impulsively. It has not pushed you to confront anyone. It has not promised instant union or demanded emotional investment. It has invited awareness, patience, and clarity. Manipulation pressures, truth steadies. Pressure creates urgency. Truth creates understanding. Your past disappointments trained you to believe that hope is dangerous. But hope guided by discernment is not dangerous. It is grounded. What you are being asked to do now is not to hope wildly, but to remain awake gently, to allow truth to approach at its own pace without forcing or denying it. You are not being asked to trust a fantasy. You are being asked to trust your ability to recognize sincerity when it stands before you. You have grown wiser than you think. You no longer fall for intensity without substance. You no longer confuse attention with intention. That growth did not disappear. It is active now. Fear will say, if this were real, it would be obvious. But seriousness is often quiet. Fear will say, if this mattered, it would have happened already. But timing and readiness do not follow impatience. Fear will say, don't get your hopes up. But this is not about hopes, it is about understanding. Let fear speak without letting it decide. You do not need to silence it. You simply need to keep it from leading. Truth does not require you to feel certain immediately. It allows space for calm confirmation. What is unfolding will prove itself through consistency, not excitement. Through alignment, not urgency. Through clarity, not confusion. You are not being asked to leap, you are being asked to stay present long enough to see clearly.